Hi everyone, it's Karen here and welcome back to my channel. You can see all the amazing things that I have here on my desk. These are all different products that you can use with alcohol ink. Some of them you can buy and some of them are free that come in packaging. And basically what I wanted to show you is a little bit of a substrate comparison or a surface comparison for alcohol inks, because I think it's really important. A lot of people want to know the differences between things and they don't want to purchase things before knowing, and this is why I'm here. Some of these things I've bought and some of these things have been given to me or have been sent to me by companies, and some of them are packaging, as I said, recycled packaging or from the dollar store, like this butterfly. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to compare different things about the different substrates, things like smoothness, texture, size, shape, how to use it, whether it's on a frame or card thickness, and the absorption of things. Oh, and of course the price. I will not list the prices of these things, but just so you know, I'm listing all the links below in the description area, and you can go ahead and do the price comparison compared to that according to the way that you love the results. Now within each different product there's so many different techniques that you can do. So I do techniques according to how I like doing them, but each one of you can do it differently, right? I'm just kind of going to show you the same technique on all of them just to compare apples with apples. So I just want to kind of go through them a little bit. So the main one, which people like know the most, is the Yupo paper, and there's also the hard core panel from Tim Holtz that is like also smooth. It's called an art panel, and it's great for that as well. There is things like glass that I took from a frame, like a picture frame I didn't need. There is acetate pieces. There is plastic packaging. Then I go into things like, oh, there's also this type of packaging from that is like plastic related. Then we go into other things like shrink film. There's the shrink print brand from Dress My Craft. There's shrink film from Grafix. There's different assorted shrink film. So there's the colorful ones. You see there's like different colors of it. There's the clear one. There's the gold one that I have right here. So it's really cool. There's the clear one from Shrink Print. So all of these work with alcohol inks. Then you get into things like craft plastic from Grafix, and there's different things there's different colors of that. There's the clear, and then there is the white, which I will show you also as well. And another thing that I thought was really interesting that I wanted to compare is Clayboard. It's something new that I haven't used before. This is how it comes. It comes in panels like this, so you can create art with it. And there is like a piece that I can try things on. There's other materials that I don't have here, like ceramic tiles that you could use as well. I have like a metal that I want to test it on, so that would be great to do. Let me show you. So something like metal. You could even like use this type of metal and basically color this and create something beautiful with that. So there's lots of different ideas. This is from the dollar store. It's just plastic, any type of plastic. What you want is a smooth surface. So all these have smooth surfaces, and that's why they work really well with alcohol inks. But I'm going to show you each one separately. The last one that I will probably show you is actually a non-smooth surface. So how to take a non-smooth surface and create a perfect smooth surface for alcohol inks. So let's get started to just compare the different ones. It's not so much a comparison or just an experiment to try each one separately to see how they react with alcohol inks. Okay, let's start with the Yupo paper, because Yupo paper is the one that a lot of people want to use the most. It's been known to work amazingly with alcohol inks. So there's many different brands. Tim Holtz has one. This is called it Do It on Yupo. So that's one. Even Joggles now has a disc-bound journal that is Yupo paper, and they come in both white and translucent for the Yupo, and you can just try really nice things with it. So I'm going to test it. This is the same. This is very similar to this one. So I'm not going to test both. This is a little bit more translucent, if you can see, but the effects are the same. The smoothness is the same. It's a very smooth paper, and it's almost like a plasticky paper. Actually, you know what? I will cut a little piece out of it to show you. Tim Holtz has pieces of the Yupo paper in different colors as well, in different sizes. Whenever I use alcohol inks, I always tend to use packaging underneath to not ruin my mat. And that works well because that way I don't like stain it, because alcohol inks are very pigmented. So I'm going to pick a couple of colors. It doesn't really matter which ones. I'm going to use it on the white and on the translucent one. Both of them are pretty smooth, so you see it goes really nicely. The effect is nice. People use alcohol inks in different ways. I like just splattering around, but you can definitely use a paintbrush with them. Every obviously surface will look differently, and this is what you want to kind of test. I know there is a glare, and I'm trying to not have that glare here, but it's so difficult because I have that plastic behind it. So as you can see, it looks really, really nice. I love how the alcohol inks mix with each other. So there we go. We have like this background, which looks good, just for fun. And so far, all good, right? Like, I mean, you could blend it, you could do anything you want with it. Okay, so I like that, and I'm just going to let it dry on the side here. I'm going to put it on another piece of packaging just to let them dry, so afterwards we can compare all the different ones. So far it's mixing beautifully. I love Yupo paper, so that's nice to see. On the cheaper side of things, we have packaging that we can use. So for example, this is a piece of packaging. We also have acetate, so I can test it on this as well. Again, sorry for the glare. I just want to kind of try these three things and just show you how they look. Again, so most of the time I won't use such a thin packaging, even though it works well. What you can do with this is actually use it for techniques. So for example, you could smush this on top of something else. So let me just, I'm trying to kind of glare it. So you see how it works nicely because it's a smooth surface. And you could just use this as a piece in a card, for example, to create a shaker card or something like that. Let me go this one. So as you can see, the difference is you can see the difference a little bit between this and the one that I use with the Yupo paper. You can see that in the acetate, what's happening is that it is like kind of sitting on the surface. It's a much smoother surface, and I never actually realized until I did this. This is very, very smooth. It's still moving around. Well, I'll show you back with the Yupo. I mean, although it's already dried, it kind of almost absorbed a little bit. Even though it's smooth plastic, it absorbed. So it's a little bit different surface than this one. I mean, I've used like the acetate before, and I like it because it's clear and you can actually see things through. And I've done cards with it where I covered everything and I just used it as a background. But truthfully, it does act a little bit differently. It's not mixing the same way. It's like almost going as drops, while the other one spread much more. This one is kind of like, this one is staying on the surface. And this is what I meant, that you can actually use this to blend things. You see, I'm blending it with the surface. You could probably do this with the other one too, but I'm just saying that it is acting a little bit different than the Yupo paper. So let me see what happens when I mix. So when I mix is different. Probably what this one needs is a little bit of that blending solution, while the blending solution will probably separate things with the Yupo paper. Okay, if I put blending solution on this one, it will probably separate it. The blending solution will probably blend this because the surface is different. So I actually want to test that and see what happens when I actually put the blending solution. You see how it's actually blending it and mixing it. It's making it more liquidy. And when I do it with the Yupo, it actually separates the alcohol ink, if you realize what I mean. So while this one is separating it, the other one is mixing it. Now once it's dry, it's going to separate here as well, but it's a completely different separation if you notice. So it's I like how the surfaces react differently to the alcohol inks. So I wonder while this one will be dry, when this one dries completely, it will probably create that separation as well. But right now, if I go and put the blending solution, it actually just blends it. So it's really interesting how they're reacting differently. Look at this big hole, as opposed to, for example, in the Yupo, it created the big hole, but the color still stayed underneath, and this one is almost gone. So this is different surfaces. You can kind of see how the things are going to react with each other. I just quickly want to show you how it looks on metal, and you can easily stain metal. You see, you can easily stain and mix things on metal, and it looks really cool. So that's a good way, and let me show it to you from closer. So because metal has a smooth surface, it works perfectly on that. Going back to this one, I want to just add a little bit of the solution to see if it separates it the way it did with the other. So now that that was dry, I just added 1 drop of the solution and it's separating it, but not as much as this one, interestingly enough. So I think the thicker the plastic is, the less it's going to separate. So this one separated a lot more. Even this acetate separated, the first acetate, I'll show you, separated a lot more, but this one is not separating as much. And that's interesting to see. And I like that you can see the differences between the plastics. It's really cool to see how it reacts with glass as well. It's much smoother than other surfaces, but it still works really nicely. And what I like about it is that you could use alcohol inks on a tile, you can use it on any smooth metal. Look how cool. And you could use this in a frame to create a really big, nice picture. Now this color is usually thicker than others, so I like adding some blending solution to kind of blend it and move it around. And if you add too much, you can always kind of remove. So that's another way. So let's just like, I don't know. I just like playing around with the colors. Look how nice that it looks. I love it with the glass. So it's really hard with the see-through surfaces. I have a hard time showing you because I kind of need like white behind it or something to show. Okay, but then you see, so you can really do it on glass. As I said, on ceramics, there's different options to do as well. The next product I want to compare is basically the Hard Core art panel from Tim Holtz and the ceramic Clayboard that I got from Joggles. So on the surface, these look very similar, right? They look like hard boards, but I think that's just because they've been mounted on wood. The alcohol ink hard core panel comes in a set of 3, or depending on the size, and in different sizes. Things are already hard on wood, so you can actually frame it. And same with the Clayboard. This is just a sample of it, but there's also things that are already mounted with actual wood that I can't wait to try it with something else. So the difference is that the Clayboard is basically made, it's coated with clay, while which is this one, and then the alcohol ink panel from the Hard Core panel, it kind of feels like the stuff that the tables are made out of, like this table that I'm on, like the IKEA table. I don't know what it's called, Formica or something like that, Formica. I'm not sure I'm saying it right, but that's what it feels like. I don't actually know what it's made out of, but this one is very, very smooth, and this one is a little bit more on the, not rough, but like not as like smooth, if that I have to say, but it's hard for you to see it in the video. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to use both the same colors on both, just to compare them, especially because they're like similar to what you would be using if you wanted to frame an artwork with alcohol inks. So I'm going to use this color, and look at how it's already like spreading differently. If you can see, this one spreads right away because it's smooth, and this one kind of needs to be blended. So I can definitely add a little bit of the blending solution to this one, and it should work. So let me add, for this one, I'll add some blending solution in other places. There we go. And now let's add some more color. So I'm really loving the Clayboard. I'm going to link that below for you guys, so if you want that. So it blends beautifully, like the Alcohol Ink Hard Core Panel really blends beautiful with the solution. But as I said, it's not as smooth, so it works differently. I think this one would probably need something like a sponge or something to move. So I went to get one of those sponges just to kind of work with it and see how it interacts. And that's really good. Now let's see what happens when I do it here. It's just smoother, so the effect is differently, if you can see. This is a little bit more dyed down, like more liquidy, but I also be that I added less on this one. I'm not sure if I did. Let's add some more color. Can't wait to even create something with these. Let's see, what other color do I want to do? Let's put this one. This one looks beautiful. So I love color onto color. Now I haven't received the alloys yet. They're on their way, so this is being shown without the alloys. Now you see the difference in the spread. This is spreading differently than this one. This one has like those little dots, almost like I said, like it's this, like it's like the table that I am on. So it works differently. So when it's smooth, no problem, it's smooth. But when it's spreading on its own, it's way different. I really like how this one is kind of marbling more than this one. It looks really, really neat. I love the marbling effect of this one. Okay, and let's add another color. Let's add some purple in it. Okay, so let's see how this goes. I want to finish. See, the problem with alcohol inks is that I actually want to always finish the boards. I don't want to leave them empty. I love having them all done. So I'm going to play with this one until it's full, just because I love having them finished. And look how beautiful. Like, I mean, it's beyond cool. Both of them are giving different effects, and I love both of them. Like, I can't like tell you I love one more than the other, because it's not true. It's just different effects. So I'm going to actually now go a little bit with these, just to kind of help these a little bit more in the edges. Wow, this is really nice. So what I'm going to do is I'm obviously going to use this for something afterwards. So a lot of people like Sharon A.K. Harris, she loves painting on these things, but I just love the abstractness of it. I just find it so beautiful when it's abstract, and then you can put some kind of design on it. Now, since I have not received my alloys yet, I want to add a little bit of gold, but I'm gonna have to add it from a different brand. So let me just go get that, so that way it looks really nice. Just to finish it up with some Pinata Rich Gold, just because that's the one I have, and I really want to add some gold onto this. Oh my gosh, that's so beautiful. I mean, technically I don't have to really finish this project, but I just can't help myself. So it's just beyond beauty, and I will link this as well. Oh my god, it's so beautiful. So look how beautiful they're reacting. So now I want to go and add gold to everything, but I'm going to just hold my horses on that one. So these are like really, really stunning. I also have another brand of alcohol ink, which is the Marabu ones. And let's see what colors do I have in that one. I think I have tangerine, think I have like a copper one. Let's see. Let's try that out. I'm like being excited. I'm excited about this thing now. So I'm just excited to see how this looks. Oh, and this is coppery. Wow, beautiful. So I'm just gonna put some of it just because I just want to. So the copper and the gold are beautiful. So the only reason I went fully with the hardcore panels is because I actually want to use them for something else. So I will use these as well, but I'm just gonna put these aside for the meantime to dry. Look how stunning that is. Oh my gosh, it is beyond stunning. I love this. So let me put these aside, and you can see, I don't know if you can see the difference on the smoothness of this one. There's like little ridges on it. That's what the hardcore panel is, but it does come in lots of different shapes, so that's really good to see. Now let's just, for the fun of it, use some of it on plastic. I took this because it's shaped, but you don't really need to use it shaped. And let's just see, let's kind of add this here. So what's nice about it is that you can, as I said, do it like that, or you can stain it the other way. You can also use some of the blending solution and create like beautiful projects. I really apologize for the glare. I need to have this on here. I wonder if I could just put a white paper. Hold on. I'm gonna try to put a white paper underneath this. Maybe that will help. Oh yeah, that helps. Okay, sorry about that. I should have done this before. Okay, so let's just add a little bit of green onto this. So at least it stains the paper, but how cool is that? So you can really create cool effects. Let's add a little bit of the gold, because who doesn't love gold? So you can really use any smooth surface and just create staining on the surfaces. So here you see I'm even just kind of painting. You can use a paintbrush as well. I have like alcohol ink paintbrushes that Tim Holtz sells. So that's good as well. What other color do I want to add here? I want to add a little bit more of the green. Look how it's mixing. So once it's dry, it looks really, really cool. So I love spreading this way, but you don't have to do that. You can definitely just paint it, as I said. So you can use this as an embellishment on a art journal page, or just use it for whatever you want. Okay, this is keeps on coming off. Oh, I have another one underneath. Is that why? So how beautiful is this? I just want to kind of blend it a little bit. So the surfaces, this is just comparing to plastic surfaces, and I'm going to actually compare also to the craft plastic that I have from Grafix. So Grafix is a company that makes lots of different films, including shrink film and many other types of films that you can either print or use art on. And I'm really excited to try their craft plastic. There we go. So this is really cool. So what I'm going to do is, because I have this white here, I'm actually going to lift the whole white thing off and just have this dry on the side. So look at it, just want to show you. And if you think it's too dark, obviously you can just remove some of it and it will just blend again. So I'm really excited. It looks dirty because it's all over, but the butterfly is probably really cool. So let's put this aside as well. And I'll take another white paper so I don't get the glare. And let's compare a different surface. So before I actually get to the next surface, I want to show you something that needs to dry, and that's why I want to do it in advance, and that is taking any type of paper. If you want to create your own smooth surface, all you have to do is basically take any type of thick paper or watercolor paper. This one is like from Joggles. And what you need to do is just put a coat of gel. Now you could put the matte gel, that if you want kind of like a matte effect, or you could actually go with the gloss one, which is something that I'd like to do, because that will make it even glossier and shiny. So the more you add onto it, the better. Now this is already a 3D gel, so it's pretty thick, but I assume it will probably need a couple of coats. If you're using something thinner, then you might need to put more coats on it. Okay, so I'm just going to add the first coat to this. And I'm going to use my silicone brush, and the only reason I do that is because if I use the regular brush, then it will create streaks, and I don't want that on the background unless you want that texture specifically. And this one might create some lines, and that's okay. I'm trying to smooth it out as much as possible. You could use a palette knife as well, but it's a little bit harder to create a smooth surface with it. If you're not able to buy any of the products for monetary constraints or anything like that, so besides using clear packaging, which basically comes in everything, food and so many different things, you can use some gel or Mod Podge or even glue to create a very glossy and smooth surface on any type of paper. The only thing I say is that you should use a thick enough paper that when you add it to the background, it does not ruin the paper. So if it's too thin, the gel will just like soak through and might ruin it. So I'm adding the first coat, and I'm going to put this aside for the second coat. The next products that I want to kind of compare to the others are the shrink films. And I'm not going to shrink it at the moment, but I'm going to show you how it goes on the surface and then show you a finished product that I've already made before. There's so many type of shrink films. There is white colored and clear color, there is gold, and then there is regular colors like red and yellow, which I showed you before. So I'm going to try these two because I had pieces of them. And the key to the shrink film is that you need to use the smooth side. There is a rougher side that you don't want to use. The same with this one, there's a rough side and a smooth side. So you kind of get the idea that alcohol inks have to be used on smooth sides. So I'm going to show you, and you know what, I'm actually going to cut this one a little bit. Don't need such a big surface for showing you this. So there's options with the shrink film. You can either die cut them in advance or die cut them after you use them with the alcohol ink. So I could die cut a shape and then put alcohol ink already on the shape, or put alcohol ink on the square and then die cut them through my die cutting machine. Either one works, so that's good. Just the only difference is that you're going to have to wait until things dry, but for the purposes of just showing you, I am just doing this the way on a regular square paper, so you can actually see what happens. So as you can see, it stays on the surface. It's a very smooth surface, so it's not blending like the other ones. But we know that with smooth surfaces, it's good to just add a little bit of this, and that blends them really nicely. I'm going to add a little bit of green, and then I'll add some, and then I'll just go. So I'm using some of this to just create that effect, and same thing here. Now I know with alcohol inks, you truly have like a lot on each sponge, so you don't have to do it the way I do and just spread it everywhere. I just want to tell you that I've had these alcohol inks for years. I can't even remember the time that I bought them. I bought them before I even wanted to use alcohol inks. I bought them like long time ago, and they're still like, there's so much in them. They never finish. Literally, I've never even thrown one out, and I've used them a lot. So I think that's cool on its own. So very cool. The gold one looks really cool as well. Let's just add a little bit of gold onto this, because now I want to add gold onto any of them. And once I get my alloys, I can't wait to play with those as well. Okay, that's good. And I'm going to put this one aside. So again, it's acting very similar to any smooth surface, and it doesn't matter what color it is, it's going to work that way really well. So let me just kind of show you. As you can see, it looks really cool. You can again blend if you want to. I love the gold part of it, so I'm just kind of smushing it, and that helps as well. Okay, so this is the shrink film, and oh, let me show you how it looks when it's shrunk. So when it shrinks, you can do it in a shape like this, and you can go watch the video on how I use shrink film with many different products, including the alcohol inks. So it looks really cool. and you can see how cool the effects are of them. So let me just show you closer. This is one of my stamps. This is a Tim Holtz die, and I used too many dark colors on this one. I wish I would have used a little bit of gold, but then I went lighter with the other color, so that looks better. So you can create some really cool embellishments for your projects. The last product I want to show you before I get to the one that I created with the gel is the Craft Plastic by Grafix. And I have two samples here that I just cut out of the 12 by 12 sheets. And the cool thing about these is that they're basically plastic kind of paper, and they come in different colors and thicknesses. So it comes in white. It's called opaque white, and that one is this one, and it's basically like 0.010 of an inch. So in terms of thickness, okay, you can see that at the top. They come 4 pages, and they're 12 by 12, so you can cut them, die cut them into anything, and you can use them with anything: watercolor, printing, drawing, alcohol inks, markers, oil paints, anything goes on this. It's really, really cool. So that's one thing. But then they also have clear ones, and there's 2 clear ones that I got. There's many other ones too, but I only got some samples of the ones that I wanted to work with. Then there is the clear one, like that is 0.07 of an inch of thickness. And that's the one I have here, which is, like, you see how thin it is, almost like the packaging that I used before. And I'm curious to compare between this film and the packaging that I have over there. And then there is this thicker one, and it's really thick. Wow, it's like super, super, super thick. It's almost like cloudy because it's so thick. And I guess, you know, I was going to say that I'm not going to try it, but it's a little bit different than the thin one, so I do want to try it. I'm going to cut a piece of this one as well. It's actually almost like hard plastic. It's not as easy to cut as the other one. So there we go. So what I like about these sheets is that you could cut it to the piece that you want, and then you can frame it. If you're using alcohol inks or paints or whatever it is, you could frame a painting like that. So I'm going to compare all 3 of them to each other and also to the other projects. So let's start with this one. First, you know me, I just want to add the same thing to all of them just to kind of play. So let's see how they react when you're just adding the one thing without the blending solution. So I immediately notice here that this one is spreading almost like dendrites, a little bit more. It's really spreading. This one is doing it as well. This one not so much. The white one is acting differently. Now let's see what happens when I add the blending solution. Okay, so when I added the blending solution onto the clear plastic packaging, it started kind of moving away from it, but in a very spread out way. It kind of removed the ink from the alcohol ink from it. This is not doing that, but let me just spread a little bit more of this color. Now they're all very similar. So now let's see what happens if they have some alcohol ink solution. Blending. So you see it's still blending it. It's not doing what the other one did. So when I added it to this packaging, it actually completely removed it. That's not happening in this one. Let's see, this is the one, the clear one, that compares to the packaging. Okay, so it's doing a similar thing, and it's removing it, not fully, but removing most of it. That's interesting to see, and it's not happening in the thick one. So I wonder what is making it remove out of this. Is it the type of plastic, or is it the thinness of the plastic? I don't know. Okay, let's see. Oh, look at this. This is also doing that as well. But how cool is that effect? It really removed it. Now, you have to understand, this is not white. This is clear. So it did do something very similar to this one. Interestingly enough, I think it's the same material. It's like a packaging material. So you could use definitely this if you don't want to spend the money on it. And let's see. This is the white one. I love how that turned out. Very cool. I want to see what happens if I add some color onto it. So we know what happens. So the only one that didn't do that is this one. It didn't separate the ink from it. So I guess it's the thickness or the type of material. I cannot tell you what it might have been. I mean, that's how it reacts. So you can, if you want different effects, that's basically what happens, is that you get different effects depending on what you use. One other thing I want to try is try this white alcohol ink. I really want to try it because it's a Pinata one. And let's see. Oh, how cool is that? Okay, I had to try it just because I wanted to. Wow, how cool is that? So I really want this. I really wanted to try the white. I was waiting for it to try the white. It kind of acts like the gold, but I can also add gold. Why not? I love the marbling effect that it creates. Okay, that's good. So you can do the exact same alcohol ink techniques that you've seen everywhere online. Like that just works the same on most of these surfaces, but it's just looking at the different thicknesses, the shapes. The price point is good. So I'm going to show you all of them soon. I just want to do one last one, which is the one with the gel. So before I actually added the second layer, I cut the piece in half because I want to test it with one layer or with two. So I'm going to add a second layer of the gel only to one of the sides. And I want to see how it reacts with one or two layers, because I wonder if I need to put the second layer. I mean, truthfully, the point of it is that I'm trying to save myself time. I get very lazy and I don't want to do things if I don't have to. So if I could avoid doing two layers, that would be ideal. So I'm going to dry this layer. I'm going to heat set it just so it's faster, and then I'm going to compare them with the alcohol inks. Then I'm going to bring everything back to show you all the different outcomes of the surfaces. Okay, so now that this is dry, I have the one with one layer and the one with two, and let's see how it reacts. So I'm going to add some alcohol inks. So again, it's probably not smooth enough for it to spread, but we know that from other surfaces, just by adding a little bit of this, but it looks beautiful as well. I mean, truthfully, you can use, as I said, this and it will look really, really nice. Look at this. Look how beautiful this looks. I mean, you can use alcohol inks on porous surfaces as well, but it will not give you the same effect. Now, as you can see lines, and that's okay. The lines are there because of the strokes that I did, but that's okay. I just love it as well. So let's try to play with some of this. Let's just add this to see how it reacts when you add the blending solution on top. You see, it doesn't separate it as much as it did with the packaging. So that's another thing you can use. Let's see. I'll use a little bit of the white and see what happens. Oh, how cool is that? So how cute are these? Oh my gosh, I love these effects. And you can die cut these after, or you could do this in your journal. So let's say you want to use alcohol inks in your journal and you don't have the Yupo Paper journal for the disc bound journal from Joggles, or you haven't made your own. You could go ahead and do this. Add gel onto the page and then create your own alcohol ink background and paint like alcohol inks. So let's just like spread this a bit more. So it's not spreading as much as the other one does because obviously the surface is not as smooth, and what it's doing, it dries actually quite faster than the other surfaces because it is so not smooth. But I have to tell you, the effects are amazing. I really, really love this. So let me just let this dry, and we're going to come back and compare everything. So here are all the comparisons. We'll start with the packaging stuff, things that can be recycled. So the acetate packaging, you could probably use transparencies as well if you have some. They would be the same as the acetate, but you could actually print on them as well. Then there is the glass, which I took out of a frame. So that's really good. It gave a really cool effect. You can kind of create like a see-through effect with all of these mosaic. I'm not sure how much I would use something thin like this, but if you don't have anything, this could be amazing to kind of collage into a journal or something, or on a card. These are mainly I've used for creating those pockets for shaker cards. Look how it looks on metal, so you can use different colors on metals. It would have looked really cool if the metal was white, like I showed you before with the container. Then there is this type of packaging, which is much thicker. This one probably compares to the thick plastic of Grafix. The other one is the Yupo paper. So there's the white and the translucent Yupo paper. So those are cool to experiment with as well. Then we have the plastic butterfly, which looks amazing. Look how beautiful that looks. So you can create really cool effects with it. The shrink print before and after. So there is the shrink print in gold, and then there's the clear one, and you can use it with any of them. And then the examples of them already shrunk. So there they are. Then you have the panels. So this one is, let me touch it. I know by the feel. So this one is the hard core panel from Tim Holtz. So that's one of them that looks really cool. And then there is the Clayboard, which is over here, which look how beautifully it turned out. I love, love, love this. It looks beautiful. So there is that. Then we have the 3 different types of craft plastic from Grafix. There is the thin clear one. There is the white opaque one, and then there is the thick plastic one. So there, I'm going to put it over here. I just love the way this looks. I'm kind of spreading these around so you can see the whole surface. And then last but not least, the one that I made on my own with the 3D gel, and those are these here. One with one coat and one with another. So technically I didn't really need to add a second coat because it gives the similar effect. As long as it has the one coat, it's fine. So there's so many surfaces that you can use. Basically any glass surface, any jar, any metal, any plastic, anything that is smooth, non-porous, you can use. If you want to use something that is porous, like a paper like this, then you have to just add gel on top. And you can use it with a porous surface, but you're not going to get those like gliding, marbling effects that you get with the alcohol inks. So I hope you kind of got the idea of the different surfaces that can be used. Most of these either have a transparency or an opaqueness to them, depending on what they are. The plastics usually are, depending on which one you're using, either opaque or translucent. The packaging, the same thing. There's different sizes. They can be die cut. And the price point is something that you will have to check once I put everything underneath. Obviously the packaging is the cheapest stuff, but it doesn't always give you the effect that you want. The Clayboard was one of my favorites, and I will link that as well. Yupo paper, of course, gives you beautiful effects. I even love how this plastic thing turned out with the butterfly. And the shrink film, and I love how the shrink film pieces have turned out. So if you want to create jewelry or you want to create beautiful embellishments, so that's a way to go. So depending what you want to use it for, if you want to frame your art still, and so you can go with something like the Hard Core Panels or the Clayboard. If you want to use it as an embellishment, then you use the plastic or the shrink film or even the metals. But if you want to just do it for cards, then you could use like transparency film or like packaging film to create those backgrounds. Even if you want to use Yupo paper for that, then you can do that. You can use it to create backgrounds for cards or create shaker cards. So there's just so many options, and you have to kind of find what's the right thing for you. That's basically the main thing, finding what's the right surface for you, because there's so many different options. You can even frame some of these plastic ones if you create paintings with them. Oh, and there's also ceramic tiles, which I didn't show you here today. But basically the possibilities are endless. So I hope you enjoyed this surface comparison, and you get creative and enjoy doing what you like to do with the alcohol inks. So thank you so much, everyone, and have an amazing day. Bye.